Let's bring in Noga Tarnopolsky. Noga, of course, is our correspondent in Jerusalem. Noga, good evening to you. Can we start with the situation regarding Iran's attacks on Israel and Israel's policy? The words of Benjamin Netanyahu we heard. And Yair Lapid, they're saying Israel is tired of containing these kind of problems. What is your sense of where we go from here?
I think, Mark, that we are really at a juncture, really at the end of the third day of this new war that could go in many different directions, any of them very consequential. There are noises being heard just in the last hour or two that Qatar and the United Arab Emirates may be running out of their anti-missile missiles that have been extremely successful in protecting their countries from Iranian attack, and that they might be looking for some way to persuade Donald Trump to give him an off-ramp, some way to persuade him to cut this campaign short. That said, all of what we heard today from Trump himself, from his Secretary of Defense or War, Pete Hegseth, and certainly from the Israeli leadership, all of it points to a very long campaign. And regarding what the head of the Israeli opposition, Yair Lapid, said, I think it's a complex situation in Israel. It is true that Israelis are tired of containing threats, but it is also true that Israelis don't have much confidence in their current leadership, and they're just plain tired. So with 12 funerals today, Israelis are feeling a pretty heavy hit on the civilian population. Life here has been completely interrupted. And with Israeli insistence, the Israeli leadership's insistence that the aim of this campaign is regime change, and yet no real plan for regime change being presented, there are some questions beginning to be raised by Israelis, perhaps not Mr. Lapid, but others, about how exactly this is going to proceed.
Indeed. I think people are raising that same question over in the United States as well because of Donald Trump's pronouncements, which have been along the lines of, I think the exact quote was kicking the crap out of them. I think that was the actual turn of phrase that he used, which basically is saying one thing, but it's not saying there's any kind of plan afterwards. And this is a very disturbing thing in terms of what happens next, because they could just create a power vacuum, and then who knows where that goes. I'm wondering about, from your perspective, how things will develop there, because clearly we've seen as well as the damage of missiles getting through the Iron Dome defences of Israel and hitting targets in Israel. We've seen the reaction from the politicians. At the same time, Israel launching an operation against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Again, sort of that taking out a senior member of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad organisation. What is the aim and objective there?
The situation in Lebanon is actually fascinating and in some way could be really fateful. Israel did launch a significant campaign today in Lebanon, specifically in the Dahieh in south of Beirut, aimed at Hezbollah targets, and this has caused more than 20,000 Lebanese to flee their homes, to the best of my knowledge. That said, the Lebanese government really has lashed out against Hezbollah in a way that is simply has no precedent. The Lebanese prime minister said that any Hezbollah military actions are illegal and prohibited. And we've even heard late this afternoon from one of the tribal leaders in southern Lebanon that for decades have either supported Hezbollah or kept quiet about this sort of Hezbollah state within a state in the south of Lebanon, this time put out a statement clearly declaring their allegiance to the Lebanese state and their opposition to Hezbollah's efforts, as they perceive it, to drag Lebanon into another war. So this actually may be, despite the violence we saw today, this may be a rare success story. In other words, Hezbollah's attack on Israel was significant but did not cause significant damage. It may indicate that Hezbollah's power really has been significantly degraded. And if Lebanon manages to take charge here, we may be seeing a sea change in at least this one country that has been very strongly backed by the United States and by France in its efforts to reconstitute the institutions of the state.
Noga, as always, thank you very much indeed for the clarity you bring to what is continually a complex situation. Noga Tarnopolsky, our correspondent there in Jerusalem. Thank you very much indeed, Noga.